The 2025 Major League Baseball season is off and running, and across all 30 Major League teams, storylines are emerging. Surprises, struggles, breakouts, and early warning signs. They're all there. And now that we're a month into the season, it's time to start connecting some of these dots and see what stories are being written about each and every team across Major League Baseball in this 2025 campaign. Welcome to the Early Observation Series here on the Baseball Banter Broadcast. Let's get into it. If I were to ask you a quick question, who is the best team right now by record in the American League? Who would you say that it is? The Yankees? The Guardians? The Astros? You'd be wrong. It is that of the Detroit Tigers. The Tigers have gotten off to a phenomenal start, and it begs the question, the early prognosticators were overlooking this team. And in this video, we're going to go over our early observation, and the simple fact is, it ends with a very quick statement when it comes to the Detroit Tigers. They are much better than you thought. Let's get into why. Now, for us to really understand how good the Tigers are in 2025 and why people were kind of overlooking them this season, we have to go back to last year. The Tigers traded off Jack Flaherty to the Dodgers and then made their impromptu run to the postseason. It was built on the strength of Tarik, Skubal, the 2024 American League Cy Young Award winner, and as AJ Hinch so eloquently put it, pitching chaos. This year, the Tigers are no longer relying on just Skubal and pitching chaos. They have themselves a legitimate rotation, and it is only serving to help this team even further. Now, as you go through the offseason and you looked at this team, they were very big into the Alex Bregman conversation, ultimately losing Bregman to the Red Sox. Everyone expected that to be a huge blow to this organization and that they were going to find themselves as a middling club in the very crowded American League Central Division, a division in which any of the four teams outside of the Chicago White Sox could have easily found themselves, in my opinion at least, as the division winner. For the Tigers, however, they did not feel that way. They went out, they bolstered their offensive capabilities by adding a guy like Gleyber Torres, but then they also went back and added to their pitching rotation with Jack Flaherty. Bringing back Flaherty to make that a 1-2 punch at the top of this rotation with Skubal absolutely set the Tigers off on the right path. You then had the emergence of their former young stars and top prospects in Casey Mize, and now the main top prospect for the Tigers in Jackson Jobe. This rotation really started to find its way and put themselves into a position to be successful. That's where it starts for the Tigers. Being able to have a team built on a full pitching staff. And we know how great that Tigers bullpen had been for them, especially during that postseason run, that this was only going to serve to help them. If they can get more out of their starters, more length, more ability, they are going to be a better team overall. But it goes beyond just what the starting rotation is capable of doing. It goes beyond what we know the bullpen is capable of. I mentioned it already, but the addition of Gleyber Torres brought in a lot more questions when the move was made than answers. Cole Keith, one of the top offensive prospects, was set to be the second baseman. The signing of Gleyber Torres was set to move him over to first base. At which point, the former number one overall prospect Spencer Torkelson was seemingly out of a job. And with the way that he played last year and the struggles that he had, this was a man whose time was all but counted for in Detroit. Torkelson comes into spring training in 2025 and really puts himself into a position where he forced his way into the lineup. An early IL stint for Gleyber Torres allowed Cole Keith to shift back to second base, and Torkelson grabbed hold of the starting job at first base and has not relinquished it, looking like the former #1 overall pick that the Tigers thought him to be. For this Tigers team, there's also the biggest X factor, in my opinion, and it is that of AJ Hinch. We've seen what he is capable of doing as a manager in this league. Yes, we know all about the 2017 sign stealing scandal, but this is a different manager from that point. This is a manager who is much more accountable, someone who is putting his players in positions to succeed and doing so extremely well. Yes, this is early, and obviously that is the title of this series, Early Observations. But the simple fact is that the Detroit Tigers have found themselves in a position where they are the best team in the American League. And it is not just because they're throwing anything against the wall and seeing what sticks. They have a plan of attack and they go after it. They are aggressive on the base pass. When you sit there and you watch a guy like Javi Baez, who has been lost since his entire time since being a Detroit Tiger, start to find his way in this season for the Tigers. Being a guy who's been moved around, not just stuck at that shortstop position, playing him at third, playing him in center field, and looking like a natural out there. This is a guy who has seen a revitalization of his career in this season for the Detroit Tigers. You also have the absolute superstar that is Riley Green, that is starting to come into his own in a very big way. And if you can have these cornerstone pieces that you're building this franchise around, not to mention arguably the best pitcher in the American League in Tarik Skubal, regain that Cy Young form that we saw him have last year and bring it into 2025, potentially going back to back in that Cy Young debate, there's no doubt about it, the Tigers are a much better team than people gave them credit for going into the early part of the season. So we know the narrative going into the year. This team was underrated and overlooked simply because they were not expecting much of this pitching staff. It was late into the offseason before Jack Flaherty joined the rotation for this organization. Again, as I mentioned already, the signing of Gleyber Torres brought up more questions than solidified answers. The Tigers have found a way early on this year to put those questions to bed and to put themselves into a position to where they have to be viewed as a very formidable threat in the American League. And not just as a central team, but as a formidable threat for the American League pennant. Again, early observation here, but nevertheless, this is a team that is pushing the envelope each and every time they're on the base pass. They're pushing the envelope each and every time a pitcher takes the mound for them. And we know how good that bullpen can be when they are firing on all cylinders. And the more they get out of the starting rotation that has been an absolute revelation, the better off the bullpen will be because they will not be as taxed. We saw that happen to them. They were able to get through the Astros, but when they expanded out, that's where things started to fall apart for the Detroit Tigers. When you look at what this team is capable of doing, the Tigers are a team that is built for that postseason stretch. And if they can continue what they're doing right now, playing well above 600 baseball, yes, I said 600% winning that they are doing right now, this is going to be a team that is going to ruffle a lot of feathers come October. So while this may be an early observation for the Tigers, it is something that we have to pay attention to. But this is just the first of the 30 teams here that we are going to be covering in this series. So make sure you keep it locked in to this Baseball Banter Broadcast YouTube channel by hitting the like, subscribe, and the bell for post notifications right down below, as it does allow you to know each and every time we drop new content and when your team comes up, if you agree with my early observation. Tigers fans, I want to hear from you. How are you feeling about this early start for your team, and where do you see them ending up at year's end? There's no doubt about it. This is a very positive early start, but it is an early start. So we have to see how everything is going to shake out for this team and for this 2025 season. And the best way to keep up to date with my thoughts, theories, and opinions on it is by hitting that like and that subscribe down below. As always, leave a comment down below with your thoughts, Tigers fans, and I want to hear from you, baseball fans. If you're not a fan of the Tigers and someone else, what have you noticed as an early observation for your team? Let me know that down in the comments. As always, we have our link tree in the description below of this video. It does help us as it has all the pertinence to our merchandise store, our sponsor links, audio platforms and social media platforms, and you can follow us on all of those social media outlets. It does a huge service as we continue to try to build this Baseball Banter Broadcast community. I want to thank you guys once again for tuning in. I will catch you on the next video as we look at another early observation. Peace.